Well, okay, this is Senate Appropriations. We're resuming our work on the budget adjustment, and we have with us a very familiar face, Sarah Clark, who's Deputy Secretary of Administration. And I think Denise, this might be your first time in front of the committee. Denise Riley Hughes, who's the Secretary of Agency of Digital Services. So welcome, and what we have here for testimony is a proposal that was in the governor's PAA, and it's a replacement of some of our antiquated systems that support payroll, I guess, Vantage, etc. And we have money set aside from times when we had more cash. But what little we heard was, yes, the money for the system got appropriated, but the staffing and the upfront work was not included in that funding, and this is what you're asking for. My understanding is that the House did not include this request in the budget adjustment, so this is your opportunity to explain to us why the request, the importance of the request, and the timing of the request in the VA. So kind of with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the two of you to run us through the documents that you provided.
Great, well, thank you, Senator Kitchell. I'm gonna kick us off. We included several slides that give some background on what the Enterprise Resource Planning Project is, to give you some context, because it's been, I think, a couple of years since we've been in the Appropriations Committee talking about this project, and it was different people that were here the last time. So both, as you know, both Denise and I are new as executive sponsors on this project. Senator Kitchell, as always, you did a great job kind of giving the background and introducing what this is, but essentially an ERP is the foundation of state government in many ways. As a 20-year government professional in the finance arena, it really is the kind of backbone for everything that we do. So it allows us to make our payroll, pay our bills, deposit funds, and a whole host of other critical functions. So we are in the process of updating our system. So the next slide, and I can give you a little
How
bit.
can you be in the process when we haven't given you the money to actually?
Well, maybe I'll just jump us to slide 5. Yeah, see, look at Senator Baruch, you got right to the. There's a lot of kind of contextual slides, and we can talk more about like why now. And why we're here today. But slide 5 gives you a little bit of appropriations history surrounding this project. So
But that's for the whole system.
it is the whole system. It built out in, I'd say, 2 phases. So we received $12.8 million in Act 74 of 2021 that was for the human capital management and budget functions of the ERP. And then the subsequent year, in 2022, there was another $11.8 million appropriated for the financial accounting portions of the system. And the language that I've used here on this table reflects what was included in the language at the time of the appropriations. So as Senator Kitchell indicated, I think at the time of those requests, they were made to fund the information technology known at the time for this project. It did not include the costs of the business to kind of support and drive the project. And by business, I mean people like myself, the financial accountants, the human resource professionals. And so that's why in the governor's recommend budget adjustment, we asked for $3 million of general fund to help fund those business transformation costs. So included within that $3 million are 2 things. One are 3 limited service positions in the Department of Finance and Management for 24 months to essentially kind of backfill as resources on the project as you kind of pull the experts that do that day to day to help implement the new system. You've got to backfill for those day-to-day functions. And so that's what $700,000 was for in the request. And the balance of 2.3 million is to fund a consultant to help the state kind of rethink our business processes. We don't want to replicate what we do today with the new system. I think the point is to transform how we do business and leverage new technologies and new, more modern ways of doing things as we implement the new ERP.
If I can add a
Please
little
do.
bit more, having it two new sets of eyes at the table has helped us look at the project holistically. And I can see where, when the original request came in, it was almost built as a like for like in what we currently have today. So we have three disparate main systems that sit within AOA, or agency administration, that do three different functions. And the whole ERP system is actually looking at bringing those functions together holistically as a single platform. So there's one user experience, which today there's not. There's actually about 25 user experiences out there, because for the systems, the end of life systems that are in place today, they actually could account for, right now, I think we're tracking 15, but we know that it's more systems out within the agencies that are being run and configured to make up for the deficiencies in these disparate products that we have deployed. And so looking at ERP as one system, there is going to have to be some process change that goes in, because right now we're doing things in, from an HR standpoint, but then we turn around and do something different in finance, and then we do something different in budget. And now we're going to look at that a little bit more holistically to allow for some of that automation, ease of use, and also meeting needs across state government that are included in all three branches that are using these systems today.
Can I ask about the 2.3 number? First question is that for 1 year?
2 years.
The positions are for 2 years. So the estimate for the consultant, and I'll be frank with you, when we were building the governor recommender, as you know, there were limited resources. And so we issued an RFP, and there was a range of responses in terms of the dollar amount. And so this reflects the low end of that estimate, but we felt it gave us sufficient funds to get moving on this important part of the project. And so it's important that I stress to you that this is what we're asking for now, but we will likely need additional funds to support the business as we move through this transformation. These are designed to help address the needs of phase one of the project, which right now, phase one includes updating our human capital management and our budgeting system. So what we now refer to as VTHR and Vantage.
Okay, if I could just follow up. So maybe it's the word consultant. Usually have a consultant that you consult first, and then you go forward with what they have advised. And they don't stay necessarily on the payroll through the whole thing. Is this more like consultant / implementation? Because it sounds like you're contemplating more like a 3 to 5 year period. And therefore, maybe instead of 2.3, ultimately $8 or $10 million that we spend on that. Is that fair?
I think what,
For the business cost of transformation,
Okay,
that I would
yeah, but
say
2.3 is the limit.
2.3 is what we are looking at to, well,
getting-
we might need more money than $2.3 million,
When I say
I think.
limit,
Yes,
but
but
but looking at business transformations separately, independently.
So in other words, you may come back in the budget asking for an additional tranche for this same thing?
not for this, not in the FY25 budget, no, but in the future, potentially.
I'm confused about the timeline of all this and in other words, it's a consultant to help select a path forward.
Oh,
Set up
no, I think it's to bring the best thinking and technology to what a system that integrates all those disparate functions with the specifications and the design, but maybe you should explain it, not me.
Is it similar to what
More than-
DMV did, where they have consultants basically are staffing for that time as they're doing the transition to the new system? It's not-
No, this would be more on the business process side. How do you hire someone? How do you onboard them? What's the life cycle of an employee in the state government? What are the different processes that they have to touch? How today are you processing through expense reporting? How are you planning your budget cycle and then reconciling your accounting based on your budget cycle? So it's all business process, not really technology. It will absolutely influence the configuration that the implementation vendor would be doing. But it is a separate, we're intending it to be a separate contract, separate,
To collect all that data. that
to
the
start
implementer
changing
would
that
use.
data. Yeah, so that we're not putting old bad process into new technology.
Would that translate into specifications for the system itself?
It will absolutely influence the automation and the simplicity of how we're configuring the system.
Yours.
Well, it gets confusing and frustrating dealing with IT.
Yeah.
The longer you've been here, the more difficult it becomes because we're always updating and modernizing and we fail frequently. And it is, we have advice from lawyers on developing legislation. We get advice on fiscal issues from, I don't know who we get advice from on IT that's neutral. But you look at what's happened.
Well, we do actually have someone on staff that. helps
Wow, we
us.
do.
Yes.
Oh, welcome. How long you been here?
I've been here a couple of years.
Couple of years. Well,
But we've had a position at Joint Fiscal more on demand to help us recognizing the very situation that you're
Well,
referencing.
well, just to finish my thought a little bit, now that I'm wrong about it. Well, we haven't taken your advice, I guess, because we still are fixing stuff that's broken. Every year I get complaints from somebody about the Department of Labor, for example, and their IT is broken and it stays broken and we try to fix it. I go back to the days when Margaret Lucenti sat in judiciary with a typewriter. And Vince Luzzi had a red pen and that's what got to the floor.
And you never knew what got to the floor.
Well, sometimes after the conference committee concluded, the conference committee members, other than Vince, would say, it's not the conference committee thing I voted for.
Well, clarify my question.
But the point is, all the improvements we supposedly made in IT, we have had just as many failures. And people are still trying to figure out the judiciary system.
But could I give it some optimism? Yes.
Positive?
Yes, the Department of Taxes modernization has worked very well, and it's had no attention in terms of complaints. The DMV system is going in well.
Well.
Yeah, well, it's going in, I think, relatively well for a whole new replacement system. The problem that we did in the past was that we had to develop our own. And rather than taking a product that had a track record of success in other places, and then everybody wanted to tinker with it to add something or whatever, and then it added cost and complications, and then we didn't chunk it out, so you had this huge project, and if one component somehow hit a brick wall, everything fell apart. And then not having the right people assigned to manage, and that's what DMV did. They reassigned, backfilled, so that people who knew what was the business was, were actually there managing. So we have learned some lessons. And I agree that the track record was dismal, along the way. And, hopefully we've learned from some of those
I didn't
mistakes.
know we had somebody in Joint Fiscal.
It's under contract.
Well, I guess I got thrown off that committee, didn't I?
Yes, you probably did. No, you're not. You're still on. Joint fiscal.
Oh, that's right, yeah, I still. It's the legislative committee I got thrown off.
Yeah, Senator Baruch,
So I guess it's
you're still on.
it's this phrase, process transformation consultant, that I'm having a hard time understanding. So I'm used to thinking that we go to a software vendor and there's a price for the the package that they're going to implement. Then they supply people to do the implementation. I've never heard of a process transformation consultant. So one question is that separate from the costs of the software upgrades,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so, in
And
terms,
consultant is what is the wrong word perhaps, and maybe
Okay.
if it said contract, I don't know if that helps you or not, Senator Baruch, but it really is intended to support the business and understanding kind of not only how we do things now, but really like how are we going to do them in the future to take advantage of the efficiencies, the modernization that's available within this new ERP.
okay. So I hear you saying, that it may well wind up being a good deal more than 2.3. Before we're done with this consultant. And that seems high to me to consult on what someone else should provide as a product and implement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't sound high if I'm thinking of it as the cost for the system itself. And so I've just, maybe it's my inexperience, I've just never seen a cost this high for a consultant about what software.
Maybe the word is triggering sort of that,
2.3 is a whole busload of people.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an
Correct.
organization.
It isn't one.
Yeah,
so perhaps.
but again,
we could
there,
look at maybe, a better way of describing what that 2.3 would buy or benefit, because consultant is such a loaded term and usually comes with sometimes a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So,
I just actually crossed out consultant on my paper. It isn't a consultant, it is business process transformation, change management. But not IT change management, business process change. We know that in order to put a new, very expensive system that is gonna be the foundation for the operations of state government, we know that we're gonna have to change process. We know that we're gonna have to ask people to do things differently. We also know that we're hiring a whole different class of generation, I should say, of individuals who expect things to and need things to operate a lot more efficiently. And so it's evident that our current systems are inefficient and ineffective when it comes to what we're trying to do here. Across state government, I mean, if I could count the number of spreadsheets in the thousands that we are using to manage our budget numbers and manage finance, it really needs to be built into an automated system to remove human error. So you have to start looking at some of those legacy and multi-generational processes that have existed. And the issue that, the lens that I'm looking through from my experience, I'm 1 year into government this month. So my tenure is definitely not nearly as long as anybody in this room. We have to stop letting the technology dictate how we operate as an organization and let the technology be designed based on how we need to operate. So it's all outcome-based modeling. And unfortunately, I can't say that when we asked for these funds that we had that in mind. I think we made some assumptions that because AOA was the business agency, that they were just gonna do it. But they're not the only ones at the table here. You're at the table, judiciary's at the table, every agency, department, commission, and board is at the table. And so we need somebody to come in as a third party to say, we're gonna have to change how we do things, but we have to make it better. And we don't have a lot of that process documentation and business process in place to say this is how we should configure it. And so that's why technology projects fail, in my opinion, is that we're putting bad process into new tech and now we have bad tech. We made good decisions on platforms, but it doesn't work if it's not built for tomorrow.
so we'll scratch consultant and come up with, I hate to use the term analyst, but really someone coming in with a critical eye, knows the kinds of questions to ask, has an understanding of how to transform systems and how to, as you say, apply the IT need to that. So I think Senator Lyons, Senator Ruth, you all said,
I am, thank you.
but you've added the probing question.
So I don't know that it's probing is my way, but
No, it's really, what is this for? What will this do? Why is this necessary?
And honestly, I was just imagining all of the IT projects with their eye-popping costs now also having companion consultant eye-popping costs. But it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah,
Thank you.
not the right word.
No, not the right word. It totally fails to capture the I don't know, that it's really the analytical work, systems understanding and so forth, but let's move on to Senator Lyons.
Well, you know, I think you've answered a lot of the questions. I was looking at your flow chart here for the roadmap and how much of the $2.3 million is invested throughout this, or is this stage one, quarter four, where are we? Quarter one and 24? Where does,
These things, yeah.
so, and then looking at the language that is here, your explanation was, I think, an improvement over the language. I mean, let's put that, let me rephrase that. Filled in the gaps for me. Yeah.
Thank you, if there's another word.
Sorry. No, it is a bit frustrating because we've been dealing with our eligibility determination system that is gonna include everyone, and then all of a sudden it disappears and we know that we can't do X, Y, and Z because we don't have it in place, but, so maybe you could just share what this.
Sure, so right in the middle, Q1 2024, so calendar year, that's where we are right now, and you'll see in pretty small print underneath planned activities, on top of that box, you see number 4 is finalize the plan for business transformation. So that is what we're in here, talking with you about today, is looking for the financial resources to support that process. And also the kind of backfilling of staff.
So in reality, this work has to be done up front before you ever get to the what we think of as the IT system itself.
Yes,
It's continuous, yes, but it does need to start right away.
Yes, Ian.
Have you executed the contract for the vendor that's doing the main,
the system integration? No,
but you had chosen the system?
We are very close to finalizing contracts. We're in the middle of the IR process right now for the implementation vendor. And we have some steps that we have to go through, and JPO is going to do their review. And I believe that we will have a lot of that documentation and final meeting in front of John Talk in March.
Is the implementation vendor different than the software vendor?
Yeah.
So the software vendor is legit
The software was procured under contract previously, yes.
for all the different parts. So
Yeah,
you're
one
taking it one
vendor,
at a
one
time.
product, one suite. Yes.
Other questions? I think we should probably introduce Lisa Galvin, who's
At least the senator's here.
who works for us, Senator Sears.
Thank you.
And maybe, we'll have some comments after we get the testimony, because I'm sure you've had some involved in reviewing, this project. So other questions, or witnesses?
And
Yes,
Vision is the finance system in that, right? That, and that would be part of this, but that's the third phase.
that would be second phase, I think. And so yes, Vision is our accounting system. There are also ancillary systems used by V-Trans and VDOL, for example, called STARS and FARS. I don't know what that stands for, but they have been in existence for.
Ours do farms.
STARS
And-
and FARS.
So they will have to transition to this.
It's almost too much like stars and
They're both
farms.
features, they're both mainframe systems, and so they're both decades and decades old. So this would retire those systems.
That's our goal, yeah. And those are probably some of our oldest systems.
which one?
STARS and FARS.
Stars.
Well, Department of Labor must be, although access has gotta be right there.
You are
That's
correct.
like 1982.
That is not in scope for this project.
We're not gonna fix Department of Labor's.
Well,
Well, we do have money,
Oh, good.
we do have money, obviously, that we have appropriated, recognizing the need. People forget. Department of Labor recognized the need to upgrade that system or replace it, and they went into this multi-state
Yeah.
project. and it all fell apart. So it really lost a lot of ground. When you're talking about multi-states, it's very hard to get consensus. I think of that years ago when we did I guess it was when we did the EBT system and we worked with the two other New England states. That was pretty unusual to get, but we have the lottery, that's another example, but on the whole, multi-state projects that's also another risk factor, putting the wrong people in charge, wanting to do too much and trying to tailor it, because your need is so much different than it. Are common mistakes, and we've made all of the history.
Maybe
So-
we should consult with FanDuels and DraftKings.
I just
and
thinking the
ask.
same
They
thing.
seem to be able to do a
They're
pretty good
doing a
job
great job, huh?
Of extracting money.
What's their security?
Well, of running their
We
website.
reviewed that.
Yeah, that's a lot of
We
that.
reviewed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We're involved in that process.
Are you?
Wendy Knight can put you in touch with them.
They're already doing it.
We're supporting Mission.
Oh. But
See, it's a success story.
Yeah, that's right.
it'll
Absolutely.
only be a success story
When the revenues start
when
rolling
the
in.
revenues start rolling in at a higher rate than the government projected.
Well, we actually didn't, for this year, project much. I don't think we did, because we had to start up and stuff.
Yeah, it's got to the Super Bowl of March Madness.
I know. Other questions of our two witnesses here. So basically, you were saying that this 3 million you are telling us is essential as we're looking to supporting the basic functions of state government, the fiscal and human resource functions of state government.
Yeah, we need to fund the business to support the IT project.
So other questions as of now then? Lisa, do you want to make any comments?
Just a quick comment.
Oh, sure. Why don't you come up and put yourself on the record and introduce yourself for
At least
Glenn.
under Sears.
And I did appreciate your kind of candid update on integrated eligibility, which seems to have stalled, but maybe we can get moving again on that, which I understand is looks somewhat promising, so. But that's not the topic for today, so if you would
Sure.
offer any insights you have regarding, the importance of this project and the needs for what the resources that are being requested.
Okay. For the record, my name is Lisa Goffin and I'm the JFO IT consultant. And this is my third session, the start of my third session. So, about this project and about this particular request for funds, this is something that will need to be done. We need to replace the ERP system and that's clear. I'm just at the end of writing an update, which will be released by probably Monday or Tuesday about this particular project. That gives just an overview of what I've found thus far and what work needs to be done. Now, last year, Senator Kitchell, based on your comments about the DMV project, I heard you mention that the comment that the staff augmentation wasn't included in the cost of the projects.
No, it was.
Well,
Not in the project, we actually budgeted. an
exactly you did, which showed a lot of insight for Commissioner Manoli, and she did a great job kind of coordinating that. We ended up with a very successful project, I think.
Yeah.
But based on that, how I'm reviewing the project now is really looking at business costs as well as the IT costs for the system and looking at it as a project, not just as funding of a system. Because I think that gives us a better understanding of just sort of the overall scope of the project and also what might be missing. And so that's something that I'm looking at for this project as well. So when you think about this project, this is the BAA, but you're talking about the licensing of the system, the ongoing costs of the system moving forward, contracted services for implementing the system, hosting and support of the system, cost of ABS staff, contract work to implement those workday modules, contract work necessarily to identify any gaps that can't be met by the solution that was chosen. Also the replacement of the legacy systems. We don't know if the selected system can meet all of those requirements and then what gaps there might be. And then just support the supporting business process, which is including the business process redesign, the staff augmentation, and other work needed to successfully complete the system. So what I'm trying to do is identify what we know about all of those areas, because that's the holistic cost of implementing the system. And so that's the process we're in right now. So I'm looking at all of this information and figuring out where there might be gaps. Because of course, one of the concerns I have is moving forward with the funds if we don't have an idea of the total scope and cost of the system. And so that's what I'm trying to nail down right now. And I guess that's kind of the extent that I can go right now, because I'm still in the midst of doing the analysis. And one of the other things that when they mentioned the IR, that's the independent review for all projects over $1 million. So that's the CIO's independent review. So that is defined under statute from the scope that it should cover, and it includes the analysis like, is the system cost more than other states, similar systems implemented in other states, those sort of things, and how prepared is the agency to successfully implement the system. So that work's being done right now. They expect it to be done in March. And so in the meantime, I'm kind of reviewing all of the work that's been done so far. We'll also look at the independent review and then make a recommendation to JITOC on if the funds that were allocated, that were appropriated for the finance management module will be released. So that was the 11.8 million, because the 12.75 million has already been released. So that's where I am right now. So it's not kind of it's just giving you an idea of the scope of them. Yeah. But regardless of what happens, this work will need to be done. And the vision system and the HR system and the budget system, they need to be replaced. So at some point, this money will be needed, and so I agree with them on that.
It seems like the House was saying, well, let's take some of the money that's here for the system itself and use it for this, which is just deferring again. And so then you're gonna have to replace, you're gonna, at some point, you don't have the funding for the system, so it's not moving you forward. It's just kind of short-term expediency, but creating the funding, deferring the funding need later on. And so my understanding, and I don't, we can take a look at it, is that the money for the IT systems come with constraints about how the money can be spent, and what this 3 million is proposed for. They had to change the language to allow some of the 11.8 million to be freed up to fund this, which then means you got 3 million less for the system. And so it's once again that short term. And we complain when the administration does it, but perhaps this is an example of our doing it, to be blunt. So I just want to point out what the BAA, how they approached it, and that was, you can have it, but it means taking it and reducing the amount that's going to be available for the system itself. Yes, Lisa.
The other, it's an important point that you should know is, and Sarah and Denise, of course, are brand new to this project. There was a decision made back in 2022 to buy the licenses for the ERP. And so that the year one cost then kicked in. That was there was a ordering agreement. And so that was $700,000. That was in May-June timeframe of 2022. And then the year two cost to maintain those licenses that was, I'll help me, property pretty glasses, 1.65 million. A total of 2.35 million have been spent thus far on these licenses, and another payment will be due this summer. So it's important to just know that, and we haven't, started the system implementation at this point. So I just wanted to make sure you were clear on that, because that is noted
It's
in
an
my.
annual expenditure.
Well, the first one, the 700,000 was the initial subscription cost. And then the actual agreement goes over 10 years. The year two payment to manage the subscription is 1.65. And the next payment will be 2.075. 2 million,
Why would we start the before the system started?
I don't know.
'Cause
And it wasn't
It's
normally.
just the licensing now.
Well, why would you do the licensing? Usually you buy the licenses per like.
When you start the implementation, yes, that's correct.
per-
Now, at the time, I know the plan was to start the project in that summer. And I think, if I recall, they were initially planning on implementing the HR system and the budget system, and they realized, or at the time, they were told they needed to do the financial system first. So I think there was a plan to start the project at that point. And I also know, there was a cost savings to buy all the subscriptions for the entire project, versus just buying for the finance management system, the HR system, budget system. So I think it
They
just,
thought there was gonna be cost savings if they could use them right away.
yeah, I mean, typically you don't buy the project and the licenses until you start the project for this reason. And, this is not a reflection on anyone who's here, and I think.
But
we
that
have-
would reflect our need to get started on the
Sooner,
very
better.
work that's been described here.
Cause we're already paying for ones.
If we're paying for licenses, but we also want to make sure that everything's in place, that we're really confirming plan, and we're going into it with open eyes on what potential costs might be. I think that's the most important thing.
Is that gonna increase throughout the whole 10 years?
It's total 28 million. I think it stabilizes after year 4. And then it's around 3 million a year.
And then it's not like that 10 years it's over, you just renegotiate it after.
Yeah, it's a subscription base, so
Oh,
but that's good, because
I don't know, they're cheering for the Senate Finance Committee or the Institutions Committee.
They're having a party for Wilson sending, I think,
Oh, is
over that.
is that it?
Yeah.
Oh.
For God's sake, you can't.
Or who?
For Will, the election.
We're just
They didn't
hearing a
invite
lot of,
us.
Yeah.
it seems like some people are having fun out in the hallway.
it's fun.
We want
Yeah,
more
Talking
fun.
about spending money on licenses that we don't use.
So Lisa, you've looked at this, and what is being proposed and what you think is needed, in front. So
I haven't seen the proposal for this work. I saw the RFP for the business process manager work. And because I'm looking at everything as a project, not just pieces, I will look at that as part of my review, yes. But it's money that, I mean, at some point, the state is going to have to pay for a new system. And it's just a question of when you choose to appropriate that.
well, we tend to like to have
Sure
them
that-
fail, and then we can make the news and.
Right. We flooded, so it's spoiled and we use flood money.
So other questions of Lisa? Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah.
But, we'll have more discussion here.
Okay,
And obviously more work to do.
thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Lisa or Sarah? Other than, would like the money. Like the money. I think we got that next out.
Who did you make this presentation to the House? So they said not to do it?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you're right.
Now they took.
We made-
money-
we made the
They took the
presentation.
money out of
That's what
the
they did.
technology and threw it into the planning and.
And we were
No,
clear with
what they
them.
did was it freed up the 3 million to use for other
things.
Other things.
Maybe we should take the 29 million that we think we're going to get.
Well, they did, yeah. So, on top of the 3 million here, et cetera. Okay, thank you very much. And I think at this point, then we've finished our testimony for today. And we can, go off